Game Week 13 team selection. That is right, FPL is finally back after the last international break of the year, which now means we have 7 FPL deadlines in just 35 days over the Christmas period. FPL and Christmas go hand in hand, so today I'm going to be taking you through my Game Week 13 team selection. We're going to be having a look at some of the injuries I've got. So I still own Mitoma, I still own Bowen, I've got flags on Erling Haaland and Matty Cash as well. So we'll be talking about those. I've got 2 free transfers as well. We're talking about what potential transfers I want to do and my lineup for Game Week 13. Welcome back everyone, FPL Harry here. Before we dive in, 1,000 likes on the video is always the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here. It is great to be back. And for once, I went into an international break and I actually got a green arrow. I got 77 points last week. So I moved from about 360k up to just outside the top 300k. So about 309k was 1 or 2 points above my safety score. So of course that safety score is the amount of points I would need to get a green arrow. So only a small one, but a lot of it came from captaining Mo Salah. Erling Haaland had the vice captain. I thought I got the captaincy call right. They matched each other, but having both of them meant that I was pretty happy with how the game week went. Diaby came in with a 6. Not quite sure how he got that assist, but he did. Bowen with an 8. Defensively, it was a bit of a nightmare though. I did bench Tsimikas. A lot of you who started Tsimikas probably put up bigger scores than I have this week. But 77, it's another green arrow. We keep moving. I rolled my transfers. So I've now got 2 transfers, 1.9 million in the bank. So there is quite a lot I can do with my team as well. And just before we have a look at potential transfers this week, this video once again is very kindly being sponsored by NordVPN. NordVPN is the fastest VPN service in the entire world, and it is the one that I use myself. Whether you want to keep yourself safe online and protect yourself from digital pickpockets, people who like to steal your information online, or whether like me, you travel and you like to keep up to date with your latest shows, or again like me, the football highlights, so I can make sure I'm watching at least the highlights of every single game so I can make the best decisions for my FPL team and give you the best advice as well for your team in these videos. It is so simple to use, but if you ever have any issues, they have 24/7 support as well, so you can go and get your aid. You can go and get support if you do ever have any issues, but I never have. These videos are massively helpful in supporting me to achieve the dream, which I have in just 2 weeks of being full-time FPL. So thank you so much. If you find this, of course, of all of interest, do check the link in the description. Check the link that is floating on screen now, but let's have a look at some potential transfers. So there are a couple of other injuries that I've got in my squad that are yellow flagged at the moment in Matty Cash and Erling Haaland as well. Haaland has been pictured back in training, so we have no real issues with that. And then, of course, Matty Cash, we've heard that he is absolutely fine as well. They both will have press conferences today on Friday, so if there's any change there, then it might impact my decision. But generally, we are expecting both Matty Cash and Erling Haaland to be fine, which means I need to focus my transfers on my midfield. That always was the plan this week and next week anyway, but I'm a little bit more forced into which players I might want to sell and which ones I might want to buy based on the injuries that we've got. Now, Mitoma was the one that I thought I would have to sell this week because he was yellow flagged, and we actually heard early into the international break he was withdrawing from the international squad and was a major doubt for the Premier League game. But it was made out that it wasn't just an injury to get him out of international duty and that we were going to see him miss a few games for Brighton. However, we have seen him back in training for Brighton on Thursday, so it is a little bit more of a boost of confidence. Now, I do want to sell him either this week or next week anyway. The Brighton fixtures coming up are not great. He's not looked great from an FPL perspective, and there is rotation in that Brighton team as well. The other one I could sell, of course, is Bowen. Now, I'm recording this very early on Friday morning, and I didn't make the transfer last night when Saka and Mbeumo both went up in price because I do want to see the West Ham press comments before I make any decisions on my transfers this week. Because if Bowen is going to be out, I will likely sell Bowen and keep Mitoma. But if Bowen's going to be okay, then I'll likely sell Mitoma. So I did let those price changes go last night. Now, for me, Bowen being out for Game Week 13 isn't that much of an issue, actually. It's Game Week 14 and onwards. So if Bowen is just a doubt for this weekend, I will likely keep him. I've got Archer at home to Bournemouth first on my bench, which is not the end of the world at all if I decide that I need to play him this week. But if he's going to miss Game Week 14, 14, 15, 16 come in the space of a week. So Game Week 15 in a week and a half is a midweek game week. So if he's going to be a doubt for Game Week 14, he might miss lots of game weeks of FPL. So in that case, I would need to sell him. So I'm waiting on the press comments for Bowen. I'm pretty certain I'm going to sell Mitoma. Even going away to Nottingham Forest this week is not that easy a fixture for him. the three midfielders that I look at that I could potentially bring in this week, we have Bukayo Saka, we have Cole Palmer, and we have Bryan Mbeumo. Bryan Mbeumo and Saka do play against each other, but their fixtures in game week 14 onwards are really nice. Cole Palmer could wait a few weeks. The Chelsea fixtures do start to be really nice from about game week 16 onwards. However, Brighton next week and then Manchester United the week after, it's not really the end of the world if I do have to play Cole Palmer. There are fixtures I think Chelsea will probably score in. So I do like Saka and Mbeumo the most. I could, in theory, if both Mitoma and Bowen are doubts this week, move to both Saka and Mbeumo this week. They're just playing against each other, and I don't massively want to sell Bowen if I don't have to. So I'm waiting on the press conference for him, but I'm going to sell Mitoma at some point soon. So looking at what this means for my lineup going into game week 13, again, we don't have a choice in goal. Areola is going to start. Turner is going to be the goalkeeper that is going to be on my bench. He doesn't get in that Nottingham Forest team, so it is going to be Areola. I do have a plan to fix the goalkeeper issue in my team over the next few weeks. Sanchez of Chelsea is likely to come in probably for Turner, so that I have Areola and Turner in case Chelsea look bad, in case West Ham look good, and keep both of them. The Chelsea fixtures, as I say, from game week 16 onwards do look really nice, and they rotate really well until about the end of the season. Now, I'll probably need a goalkeeper for a double game week or something later down the line, but I do think that Areola and Sanchez feel like a pretty good, decent goalkeeper combination for the foreseeable future. Moving into defence, it is an awful week for defensive clean sheets. There are no real options in there. So I wouldn't use a defensive transfer this week unless you don't have three to put out, because the only players that you'd really want to buy this week are maybe Saliba, but he does go away to Brentford, so that's not even that great a move this week anyway. I do plan on keeping Matty Cash. Yes, he might not be playing as advanced going forward. Yes, the fixtures get a little bit more difficult. But as I said, there's no one I want this week. He plays Bournemouth next week. Then I can bench him against Manchester City and Arsenal. And then he goes back into quite a nice run of fixtures. So I might end up keeping him. Livramento next, Chelsea at home. With Lewis Hall not being able to play against his parent club, Livramento is pretty set to start that game. It is a home fixture for Newcastle. He does have a little bit of attacking threat. So again, I'm not going to be taking him out, but next week he'll be a player that I'm very concerned about having in my team when Lewis Hall does return. And then we have Gabriel. Gabriel started twice over the international break again. I have no doubt, but I don't think he'll be benched against Brentford. That's a tough game, but it does put a little bit of doubt in my mind going forward, given they play Champions League as well as a lot of these Premier League games. But he's going to start this week because these three, although they might be issues for me next week, I don't think they're major issues for me this week. Then moving into midfield. So I do plan on keeping Jarrod Bowen if there's even a sniff that he's going to be back in game week 14. That will mean that Mitoma will be my transfer out. And I do think I'll go to Bryan Mbeumo first. I think he's the one that I know I want. But Bukayo Saka I've spoken about. The data's not been massively great for Arsenal so far this season. So I want to see with Odegaard being back, with Gabriel Jesus back, exactly how they're going to look going into game week 13 against Brentford. And then potentially I can bring in Bukayo Saka in place of Diaby in my midfield when he has played the Spurs fixture this week. Then, of course, Diaby in there. I do think Villa will do well against Spurs. That Spurs high line, that defence being full of injuries, I do think will do well for both Watkins and Diaby, who are both in my team. Son in there. And then Bukayo Saka. Up front is Erling Haaland alongside Ollie Watkins. So if Bowen is out, I do have Archer sat first on the bench, who I could go and potentially bring into my team this week. It's not the end of the world if Bowen is out for 1 week. Archer at home to Bournemouth is okay. In terms of captaincy decision this week, it's between Erling Haaland, Mo Salah and Son. Salah being away in the early kickoff is not ideal, but I do know that he has an okay record against Manchester City. Haaland doesn't have a great record against Liverpool, but he's just that man who's scoring goals. He scored twice against United, twice against Chelsea. Son, I don't think I'll do because I'm still uncertain of how Spurs will perform. But we know Aston Villa defend with a very high line, and Son going in behind that could be a real option. Bowen, if declared absolutely fine, is in with a shout away at Burnley. But at the moment, I think it will be on Erling Haaland. So looking at what this means for my team over the next few weeks. So this is planfpl.com. There is a link in the description if you want to do it. It allows you to plan your team in the future game weeks as well. They have an app. It's fantastic. Not sponsored at all, but I do really like it. So the transfer that I know that I'm going to make probably is Bryan Mbeumo in this week. Whether it's for Mitoma or Bowen will depend on press conferences. So let's say we do it for Mitoma this week. Bryan Mbeumo into my team. He does have Arsenal at home, as I've mentioned, but I do want him long term. It is likely, if Bowen is okay, that I will roll my second transfer this week. Whether Bowen is okay this week or not will be Archer off the bench if I want to, but still, generally pretty pleased with my team this week. Going into game week 14, again, if Bowen is going to be okay, if he's not, things will change a little bit, right? But if Bowen is not okay, then I will sell him next week and buy Bukayo Saka. That makes life quite easy, leaves me 0.2 million in the bank. I have the money to do that, and I would probably end up rolling the second transfer again, and I'd probably end up keeping Son Heung-min. However, if we do hear that Bowen is actually likely to be okay, I have to make a difficult decision on what I do with Son Heung-min after that Aston Villa game. At 9.7 million now, 9.4 million selling price, with the form that they've shown over the past couple of games, with the fixtures they've got coming up like Manchester City and Newcastle in game weeks 14 and game week 16 as well, with his injury record, am I certain that I want him? No. What I can do without him is really, really strong. So if Bowen is going to be okay, it will likely be Son that leaves my team in place of Bukayo Saka. So I will have one more week. It will depend on Bowen's injury. If Bowen is going to be okay, then I might have to sell Son next week. If Bowen is going to be out, then it is an easy transfer of Bowen to Son next week. I could end up doing it this week if I really wanted to, but I do think Archer at home to Bournemouth is a decent enough fixture going into game week 13 to give me a little bit more news on what I think of Arsenal, what I think of Spurs, what's going to happen with Jared Bowen, what do we think of Diaby, what do we think of some of my defenders as well. So rolling the transfer is always beneficial if you're ever in doubt, and I do think Saka away at Brentford is not the easiest fixture. He's probably better than Archer at home to Bournemouth, of course he is, but is it worth bringing forward a week now that I've missed the price rise on Saka last night? I'm not 100% sure. So those are my plans over the next couple of weeks. This week, it's going to be Mbeumo in. Whether it's for Mitoma or Bowen will depend on the West Ham press conference. Again, there'll be a deadline stream on Saturday morning where I'll probably be confirming my transfers then now that I've missed the price rises. So I'll probably leave it until the deadline because I don't need to make it earlier for the sake of it. Thank you all for watching. Let me know any questions you have about your team, any thoughts on my team as well. Leave it all in the comment section down below. 1,000 likes on the video is the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here, and I'll be back again very soon.